All right, guys, welcome to episode number 12 of the ConquerMe podcast. I am like giddy excited about this episode. Today I have Jess Sowards on with me, and she is the owner and creator of Roots and Refuge. And I'm just excited about this conversation. So to give you a little bit of context and kind of how Jess and I met, we just met recently, right? So you guys moved into Batesburg, and I've had like 10 friends since you've been here say, you've got to meet this couple. They're amazing. You guys think alike. And, you know, I've heard it over and over and over. And then I just happened to look over the other day and you were in my gym. Yeah. So I didn't actually know that you were there until then. I saw the name. It just didn't register, right? And so I pulled you to the side and you and I had a conversation, and it was like, boom, I love her. This chick is awesome. So I felt like we hit it off. And, you know, this podcast is really all about finding people with inspirational stories. It's called ConquerMe because, as you and I have discussed, in order for us to move from where we're at to where we are now and where we want to go, we've got to overcome some things. And you shared just a tiny like snippet of your story with me. And it's really easy to look at the 500,000 subscribers, or whatever you guys have on YouTube, and all the amazing following and the incredible audience that you've built and all the impact that you're making online, and to go, oh, that's cool. It must be nice. But it's so cool to hear about the back end of that. How did that happen? So I just want to get to know you a little bit more. I want my audience to be inspired by your story. So let's just start with telling us a little bit about how you guys got into homesteading, first of all, and then how you got to Batesburg.
Yeah. I felt the same thing whenever I walked out of the gym that day after we had talked. And I called my husband, Maya, and I told him, I was like, you know, I want our family signed up here. I want to dive in here. And I was like, because this couple is doing in Batesburg along the same lines what we want to do in Batesburg, just rooting in and bringing tools for change. Yep. And so, yeah, I definitely see a long-term partnership. I'm sure this won't be the only conversation we have for people to hear. But it kind of goes way back for me with homesteading. I was the little girl who always talked about wanting to have a farm one day. Now, at that point, it was a romantic ideal. I liked storybooks with farms. I loved horses. It was very much a very childish thing. Grew up in suburbia. Was not around agriculture at all. You know, my grandfather had a garden. My mom liked growing ornamental stuff, roses and all of that.
Yeah. This is what part of the country?
In Arkansas.
In Arkansas, okay.
Born and raised in Arkansas. And I didn't necessarily grow up in a situation where it was always like, you know, you're going to have all the opportunity given to you. I mean, we were definitely like working lower class family. We were the kind of poor where like my dad worked really hard. My mom stayed at home, and that was the luxury that we had. And it was just kind of always understood that I might or might not go to college, depending on how good my grades were and how determined I was, because it wasn't going to be paid for. I mean, that was always a given. And it was never drilled into me, honestly, that was necessary. It was kind of always like, if you're willing to work hard, you'll get by. You know, that was sort of the thought process.
Which isn't bad.
No, it's not. I mean, I think it definitely set me up. Yeah. And then that homesteading dream, though, that never really went away. I always was very fascinated by that. I got married really young the first time. Jeremiah and I have a blended family now. We were both married previously. Went through a pretty tumultuous divorce young. I mean, I had my first son when I was 19. Jackson, who was in the gym earlier today.
Little stud.
Yeah. he's 17 now. And I still wanted the homestead, but it was impossible. I mean, I was a single mom at 24 with 2 young children, and I was giving blood to giving plasma to put gas in my car. Yeah. And living with my mom, I was substitute teaching. I was trying to juggle having 2 young children, needing money. You know, I was on food stamps. I was in the struggle in a real big way. And my husband, Jeremiah, and I became really good friends first during that time. He was also going through, divorce and separation and had gone through all of that. And we'd known each other through church and all that stuff. And I don't know, at one point, I remember kind of the aha moment with him. We had become really good friends. We were talking on the phone one night, and he was like, describe your perfect Saturday. Like, well, I live on a farm, and I just described this.
What a great question.
Perfect Saturday.
Think about it.
Like what it would be. And I mean, when you think about that, when you think about, well, what do you really want? What do you this? What do you that? It's hard to stretch your mind out to that because you're limited by possibility. Yeah. But when you describe your perfect Saturday, you'll know exactly where you want to be in life, And I remember that conversation kind of breaking open the topic of the fact that I desperately wanted a farm. And here's this man who grew up in the country, kind of growing food, but not, I don't know, his family had a lot of dysfunction, a lot of pain, but that was his mom's dream always. And he had sworn off ever doing that again. He was like, that was awful. That was a lot of work. I don't want to do that. But he was committed to like winning me at this point. And he's like, we could have that life, that could be our life. I would love that. And I'm like, all right. And we joke now because I'll be like, do you like my outfit? And he'll flirt with me. He'll be like, I got a farm. Like, that's the joke now. That's how he got me, was he told me, I see that dream and that's valid. And I will work to give that to you. And nobody had ever said that to me before. Nobody had ever said that's a valid dream. People would always be like, well, why would you want to farm? Why would you want to do agriculture? Why? You don't have any experience. You don't have any business doing that. And so obviously we build this life together, and the first 4 years of our marriage was in town. He was a youth pastor, and, I was a student. I had a photography business. Our kids were at school. We walked them to school every day. Very typical suburbia situation. And I wanted this life in the country so bad. And I was doing everything I could to kind of do those homesteading ideals, like I had learned to cook from scratch. I would forage. I would shop at the farmer's market. I'd learned to can and like all these different things. I'd read everything I could about homesteading. And I was just like waiting for the moment I was going to get to like shoot my shot. Yeah.
Getting the blackberries.
Yeah. I was foraging blackberries. And I remember like there was this moment of surrender in this story where we had gone, our dating life, I mean, all we did, we would go look at farm properties. I mean, I was obsessed. I thought about it all the time. And it kind of came to this point of surrender because we couldn't make it happen. We didn't have the money. And we were sitting out on a date night one night, and I was like, I just know that this life is for me. And I remember Jeremiah saying, make it happen. I'm like, I can't. And I finally just said, God, I believe you put desires in our heart for a reason. And if this is really one, see it and you do it. I can't.
Call him on it.
And it doesn't always work out so neat, but in this particular instance, it really did. And just within a few weeks of that whole moment of surrender thing, it happened that we came across this foreclosure property. And that was our first farm. That was our first farm. It was 4 acres. And we bought that house. It was dirt cheap. It was in really rough shape. And we carved a working homestead out of that place.
That's awesome.
Over the course of almost 8 years. And towards the end of that, we came out here and visited Batesburg. And again, sometimes people want a neat answer. When God's involved, you don't always have that. Came out here to visit. Actually, 4 years ago tomorrow. Tomorrow's my 37th birthday. Yeah. And we came out here on my birthday, and we just knew this is where we were supposed to be. And it took a little while to get here. Took about 2.5 years logistically to get here. But we hit the ground running since we've been here, and it's the most home place we've ever been.
It's so good. I love it. So you said something in one of your videos, and I said the same thing in a previous podcast, and my journey was similar. Like, it didn't make sense. It was messy. There was bankruptcy. There was a lot of disbelief. There was a lot of like, this doesn't add up. Like 1 + 1 is 3 in this scenario, and it's not. It just doesn't make sense, right? But I felt like the Lord said, start a fitness business in the middle of all this, and we don't have the resources. Same type of scenario, and I'm like, I don't know why or how. I just have to take the next step and have the next conversation. And you talked about that in one of your videos. So
Yeah.
I'd love for you just to share a little bit more about that kind of mindset and how that's played out in your life.
Yeah. So I think that there is a tension between two truths and how we're supposed to handle ourselves when we are being led and also being responsible. So there's like stewardship and there's like making responsible choices. And then there's also being led, which is sometimes doing the exact opposite of what common sense would tell you to do. And
that's faith, right?
That's faith. And I have to preface that because some people will be like, God told you to do what? Like, hold on, that doesn't make any sense. But I can see the most pivotal points of our journey always came on the back end of a surrender, of a thing where we were like, we can't do this. Like, we can't figure this out. We can't make this work. And that we just kind of opened our hands and said, okay, like, you're in it or you're not. And like, I'm in it. So here we go, man, we were broke. We were really broke. My husband is a medically retired Marine. And so always, again, I mean, like, we always had our mortgage paid. There was at least that. And the very baseline, we did not have any extra money. We did not have enough money for our life, but we always had our mortgage paid. And I'd had a photography business. I used to travel in ministry. We had tried to do a lawn care business for a little while. It was really breaking Jeremiah's body down in a really hard way. He doesn't like to acknowledge the limitations that he has. And in that case, it kind of came down to me talking to him and being like, I don't think that this is smart. I don't think that this is actually preserving the longevity of your life for you to be using your body in this way. Yeah. And basically, when we found our property of foreclosure in 2014, we had gone out there and we felt so led that we were supposed to be doing this homesteading thing. It was what our marriage was like founded on, was this desire, like it was this agreement that we had together. And we both just felt so led to do it. But we got out in the midst of it and found out it's expensive. Yeah. I mean, like, you want to go get chickens, you want to start a garden, you want to do this. And everywhere you turn, you're looking at another $1,000 expense, and fencing and just infrastructure and all of the stuff adds up.
And where's the return too? Right. It's like, and you get some food and you get to play in the garden, but is there money coming back?
It's hard to see that, especially at first. There's a lot of investment in the front end. And we were struggling, man. We spent a few years there, like, doing all these other jobs and doing all these other things. And every time we would go towards making money, the farm would suffer, and we'd end up having to pare the farm back really hard. And basically, we'd gotten to this point that the farm was really suffering, and I had quit traveling in ministry. I had shut down the photography business. I was torn. Yeah. I was so torn in all these different directions. I was homeschooling my kids. I just had too much on my plate. So I remember waking up one morning and asking Maya a question. I said, let's count the cost. And I told him, because I could see there was a lot of pressure on him. I could see it was really stressing him out, the struggle that we were in, the financial struggle, the struggle with the farm. It was taking a toll on our marriage. We were stressed. And of course, you're raising kids in a house where there's a lot of stress. That's not great. And I said, if this is too much right now, let's sell the house, because we'd gotten a foreclosure. We'd done a lot of work on it. We had equity. And let's move back into town. And we'll just take a stab at this at a later date. Maybe we can do some sort of business endeavors, make some money, make this a little easier. I can garden in town. I'll get a few chickens. I'll be happy. Like, I don't want to put the pressure of my dream on you to the point that it's going to make you hate your life. You know, I don't want you to do that. And he laid there for a second. I was like, don't answer me. Like, don't say anything. Take your time. Like, mean what you say. I want to give you some time. I don't want a quick response. There's not a wrong answer here. And he ended up coming back to me later and being like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And he was like, anything else I think would just feel inferior ear. And right after that, I was on my back porch. I'm a journaler. And I was journaling. I journal my prayers. And I was praying, writing in my journal. And I had this moment that was, I mean, for lack of better terms, I don't know exactly what to call it, an imagination, a vision, you know, this thing that pops in my head that I can't really explain. And it was intro video to a YouTube channel. Now, I had kind of halfway done YouTube. I think I had like 14 videos up or something like that over like 2.5 years, where you're like, I'm going to try this. And you're like, wow, this is a lot of work, you know, like nobody's watching.
Yeah.
And so
kind of like this podcast.
Yeah. Kind of uncommitted couple years. And I'm on my back porch. I'm journaling. I had my phone out there researching bankruptcy, trying to figure out what to do. I found out that basically to declare bankruptcy, we would have had to sell our farm. So it was all or nothing because of the equity that we had in the house.
So major crossroads.
So it was like, which way are you going to go? And Jeremiah had said to me, no, this is it. It's got to work here. And all of a sudden the scripture came to me, you released me from the fowler's snare. And we had been so entrenched in like the Dave Ramsey thing and had worked really hard to get out of debt for a while. And then we got in our house and kind of had gone back. And that idea in Dave Ramsey is to be gazelle intense, which is to like get out of debt, like you're getting away from a hunter. But then the scripture comes to me, you release me from the fowler's snare. And all of a sudden I realize I am trying to fix everything. I am trying to take it upon myself. And while it's true, you have to show up to the fullest capacity. Yeah, you have to be responsible. Yeah, you have to steward well. Yeah, you have to do all of that. There is a point where you're not enough, but God is. And like in that moment, I realized, oh, wait, you released me from the fowler's snare. So I'm supposed to be gazelle intense, but also you released me from the fowler's snare. And I remember I still have this journal and there's like 6 pages and it's all caps. I mean, writing getting bigger and bigger. You released me from the fowler's snare. You released me from the fowler's snare. And all of a sudden this image comes to my mind of YouTube video intro. And this was March of 2018. And I get up. I mean, I'm like jazzed, you know, like, and I go next door. My mother-in-law was still alive. She lived next door to us. And Jeremiah was over there sitting at the kitchen table. And he will tell the story as if I kicked the door in, which I didn't, you know, like, but I bust in.
Yeah.
And I walk up to the table and all I say to them, I'm going to do YouTube like it's my job and it's going to fund this vision. And I mean, they know me enough that at that point they're like, okay, you know, I mean, there was no conversation. And I literally walked out and went and got my camera and shot a video. And so that's when I started doing it like it was my job. I started showing up like I had a boss. I started doing it as if I couldn't call in sick.
Get out.
As if it was paying the bills. Wasn't. But I started doing it like that. And I did it for months. And then
no one's really watching.
Nobody's really watching.
You're talking about homesteading, right? You're in the at the farm, and
I think I had like maybe 1,000 subscribers, which had been over the course of those 14 videos in the 2.5 years or whatever. And maybe I was getting like 100 views a video or something like that. And over the course of that really hard period, we were like really broke. We were really, really broke. And I look back on that and I see the provision that was made for us during that time. And I'm like, how did we eat so well? How did we have so much time? How did we, you know, like, how did we manage? I don't even know now, really. I can't even tell you other than it's the Lord. But I'd gone to do one last ministry thing. I'd gone to like lead worship and like do a service somewhere. And this lady had come up to me and given me a $1,000 check, which was like all the money in the world at the time. And I'd gone home and we had a car payment that was overdue. And I take this check to Jeremiah and I'm like, oh, we got to catch up on the car. We got to catch up on this. We got to do that. And he's like, no, this is for the garden, which he is not a gardener. He's like you. He's like, more power to me. He builds it for me, but he is not a gardener. It was my desire. I wanted that. And I'm like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Like that does not make any sense. And he was like, you know, this is what we're supposed to do. And this is where I talk about the tension between stewardship and faith, is that sometimes the best way to steward is do what God says, even if it doesn't make sense. And so we built the garden. We finished
even
building.
If everybody else says it's irresponsible and it doesn't make sense. And
we built the garden. We finished building the garden with that $1,000. And in the process of that, our car got towed out of our driveway, repossessed, while we were hosting house church at our house. It was very embarrassing.
That's great.
But we did what we felt led. And the first video that took off on my channel months after starting was the first full garden tour where I took a tour, 45-minute video. I did not expect anyone to watch it because at the time, everyone was short format.
Yeah.
Keep your videos under 10 minutes or nobody's going to watch them. So I make this 45-minute video just walking through the garden, geeking out over the stuff that was growing in there.
Look, it's plants.
Yeah,
Stuff I would be like, I don't even know. Whatever. All right, let's eat it, I guess.
Exactly. And it was my first video that ever got 1,000 views within 24 hours. And that started the trajectory. And that was like June, I think that was June 7th of 2018, if I remember correctly. And by July, we had 10,000 subs. By the end of that year, 40. By the following March, 100. And then the following March after that, COVID. And so at that point, we went from 200 to 450.
Wow.
And so it was...
Timing was so perfect on that. There's no way that you could have planned that or prepared for that.
And it was wild because whenever we first started, it was this like chug along thing of making this content, making these videos and doing this. I'm like, wow, this is going awesome. But I had no clue that there was something coming that people were going to see grocery store shelves empty for the first time ever.
Man.
They were going to be home with all this time during garden season. I mean, it was like the perfect time, March. Hey, now's the time to start your seeds. And what did they go search on YouTube? In 2020, the gardening and homesteading niche was the fastest growing niche on YouTube. It surpassed the beauty industry.
Wow.
It surpassed, everything that had previously been what people watched on YouTube. That took off. And you have all these people that are starting channels. And it gets incredibly flooded. There's thousands and thousands of them now. But I was one of the originals that was doing that kind of content. And so it was just kind of a perfect storm. And there have been so many things like that, like had an idea for a video driving down the road, go get the stuff, shoot the video, upload it, how to grow salad greens in a soil bag. The next day, salad recall all over the country. It has been silly, really.
But listen, though, I want to say this because this is not uncommon when you're chasing a dream and you have a fire and you feel like it's what you're supposed to be doing and you have faith and you go after it, even when it doesn't make sense, those confirmations will come over and over. And it's like, just when you feel like you're done, something like that drops. That's been for me. And it's like, okay, all right, I get it now. I'm back to what I was supposed to be doing. And it's always right on time. And it's right when you feel like you don't have any gas left in the tank. So it's just such a common thread between dreamers, right? Between people chasing something. I've heard that over and over and over across the board. And it's like, I want people to hear this and go, okay, I have this thing on my heart. It doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to have everything in place. I don't have to have the perfect plan. Just take action, right?
Yes.
To your point, take the next step, have the next conversation, find the next resource, whatever that looks like, just move in that direction.
100%.
Yeah, that's so good.
That's what faith does, is it propels you in the direction of your dream.
Yep.
And so many people want to get where they want to be. I get it.
Yeah.
I totally feel that. And now the position I'm in, you said earlier, it's so easy to see where somebody is and think, I want that. And you don't know what led to it. And ours was a story that was really honestly full of heartbreak, full of trauma, full of so much pain.
Yeah.
Both even together, but then previously when we were children. And this is all stuff that we have had to face in our adult life, because when you end up in a place where you have a lot of success, you have a lot of influence, you have money to handle, you have people watching you, it is like, it's like 100 tons on the foundation of what you actually are, you know? And I've got 6 kids. We, in our blended family, have 6 children. And I don't want to get to the end of my life and have made a lot of money and impressed a lot of people, but had my marriage fall apart, have my kids go astray. The most important thing to me is legacy. And that is in my marriage, that is in my children, that's in my home. And with what we're doing, what you're doing is the same thing. I mean, caring for your body, caring for your home. I mean, so much of what we're doing comes back to caring for our body and essentially a holistic life. I mean, health in all areas. Like, that has to be for legacy's sake.
Yeah.
And it is weird. I mean, like, what we do is very much a juxtaposition. I mean, on one hand, we're like in this super connected social media world.
Right. That is
And on
weird
the
to
other
think
hand,
about,
homesteading, which is like simplifying,
Out
less
in the woods
consumption.
and barefooted.
Like, like slowing down and less of that. And here we are like walking this line in between. And I'm so thankful that our entry into that came by being led and doing the thing that didn't make sense. Because since being in what we're in, the amount of people have been like, oh, you could make a ton of money if you did that. And I'm like, but that would be contrary to what we believe. That would be, I can't tell people they need to buy something that they don't need to buy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell them how to not buy stuff. I'm trying to tell them how to buy less. If I tell them they need to buy something, it better be something I believe is going to benefit their life. And it's been a thing that sometimes, I mean, we've run our business in a way that doesn't make sense. Sometimes we packed up and moved across the country. People are like, where are you going there? Who do you know there?
What
and
is
we're like,
Batesburg? Yeah.
We're like,
and now you're a celebrity. So,
I don't know.
so we have this thing in Batesburg, Arts on something. What was it in Leesville?
Arts on the Ridge.
Arts on the Ridge. Okay, so this thing in Leesville, and we get there, and it's like a bunch of crafts and different things, right? And you guys are set up there, and there's a line like a half a mile long, and I'm like, I already know who that is. That's the Roots and Refuge people. But it just speaks to the fact that so many people are intrigued by what you guys are doing. It is very, very uncommon, and it doesn't really make sense, and it's new to Batesburg. And if you just go and read the comments on your YouTube channels, like I would stay on that channel all day just to read that stuff because it's so good. Like, people are saying, Jess, this video has really made my day, and this one idea has totally changed the way I think about. Like, you're making one video that may or may not do well in terms of views or whatever, but you read the comments and it's like you don't even understand the ripple effect of that stuff, and it's so cool to see that. And something I want you to jam on a little bit, and you kind of started to touch on it, is coming from a place of trauma and lack and not really understanding, having a lot of money and having to manage that and getting a lot of attention really fast. Most people can't sustain that. So you take someone who is, for lack of better explanation, broken, right? Been through hell and has a lot of limiting beliefs and maybe not the best self-confidence or belief in themselves and imposter syndrome and all these other things. And you go, here's a bunch of money and a bunch of attention. Like, how have you guys dealt with that? And has it been challenging?
Oh, yeah. I want to make sure that I answer this rightly.
Yeah.
I'm not a super fast thinker. So sometimes things like this aren't always the easiest. That has been a process that is still being worked out.
Yeah.
And my number one thing is that I don't ever want to have a life that I have to lie about. I don't want to have a marriage on YouTube that I don't actually have when the camera's off. I don't want to have a relationship with my kids on YouTube that I don't have when the camera's off. And I have this thing that I personally, it's a tool that I use. And I look at everything and I say, real or not real. And by that, what I mean is, does this have any eternal value at all? And you know what? Sometimes you're going to go out for a fun night. And I mean, like, my husband's like, what do you want to do for your birthday this week? And I'm like, I want to go watch that Avatar movie. Like,
there
I mean, does that have eternal value? No. But I mean, spending time with my husband does, and spending time with friends, all that stuff. But I don't mean that in like a religious sense or like a rule following sense, but I just want things to be real. And I think the reason we have had success doing what we do is because people, they know what's real or not.
Yeah. And
when something is actually real, what it does is I think that it like connects with the most authentic part of people. And so much of the way we live in our culture is such a sham. Like, I feel like we're just getting so scammed. Like,
all day, every day.
We really are. I mean, I'm very sensitive to advertisement because I'm in a world that, I mean, the offers that I get, the amounts of money that I get to advertise things, I'm like, it's stupid.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm saying no to 98% of them, you know? And so it's made me so aware of the app. You can't even buy a Kindle anymore without it having advertisements on it. You know, like, I mean, you're just so bombarded with people trying to convince you to do what will make them money.
Yeah.
And people are so overstimulated by stuff that they don't even realize they're being overstimulated by. I mean, like, honestly, you could probably relate. We're eating food that's poisoning our body.
All day.
We're leaving our families to go work 60 hours a week to pay for the food that's poisoning our body. And then the medicine and the insurance that we need to combat the food that's poisoning our body. And, like, we're living in such a way that it's like, we were not created for this.
It's all a scam. Yeah.
It's a scam. We are being so scammed. And I can get real hot on that. But
I love it. Preach. I love it. I'm all over. Trust me, you're not going to find anybody more passionate about that than me. So, yeah.
And my thing is that when people turn on and they get 15 minutes and they feel peace that they can't understand.
Yeah.
And they see interactions that are genuine.
Yeah.
Now, are we perfect? Heck no.
Right.
Like, absolutely not. But we are honest.
Yeah.
And, like, that is my thing more than anything. When you talk about that process, I can look back on my early YouTube videos and know that I was being honest.
Yeah.
I was way more broken than I am now.
Mm.
I can look back on things that I wrote 10 years ago. You know, I wrote for a magazine for a little while and have done some different things. And I can go, this girl was not honest. Like, what I was saying may have been honest, but the place that I was saying it was coming from was so broken. So that's been a process, and it's been a real walk of honesty with each other, with ourselves, and with the people who are walking with us, and just trying to keep it as transparent and authentic as possible. And that's why I tell people when they want to do what we do, I'm like, you gotta be honest.
Yeah.
You gotta be authentic. I think that's such a tag word now, and people are like, oh yeah, authentic.
Right,
and I'm like, if you have not sat down and combed out the tangles of your heart to find out what authentic even looks like for you, you aren't being authentic.
Yeah.
Because we can fool even ourselves. And, like, this has been the process for me of, like, what is my realest real? What do I want to invest in? What do I want to choose? And that's why I can turn the camera on 5 times a week and go out and just walk around my garden and it actually be worthwhile. Now, I will tell you, I have a lot of peers that started at the same time as me. Their channels are twice as big as mine.
Yeah.
But when you read those comments, you know, we get those comments. That day in Batesburg with Arts on the Ridge, there were more than a handful of people there that traveled in. There were people that bought plane tickets to come to that.
Get out.
We announced it 4 days before it happened because I thought I was going kayaking with my friend that weekend. It's nuts. But I would rather be an inch wide and a mile deep.
Yeah, it's the preach.
And I would rather give something real that turns a lot of people away. People are like, why don't you just stick to gardening, girl? I'm like, because I'm not a garden in that sense. Like, that's not all that I am.
Right.
I could go down. I think we should treat ourselves like a garden. But people say, don't talk about your faith. Don't talk about this relational side. I don't want to hear about your philosophy. Don't tell me, you know, don't show cooking meat. I don't eat meat. Don't do this. Don't do that. They'll say all these different things. And I'm like, hey.
You'll do nothing if you listen to all that.
I'm going to set a buffet. Yeah. And if you're upset that something exists on the buffet, you're welcome to go dine elsewhere.
Yep.
But it's labeled.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't eat it if
Take
you don't
what you want.
And yeah, it has turned some people away. But what is there is authentic.
Yeah.
And so the people who stay are the people looking for something authentic. And there's something that feeds them in that.
It's the one thing I will, like, that is literally the word. When I looked at your channel, that's what hit me. It was like, these people seem so authentic. And that's why I asked you before the show. I'm like, do you just sit around and plan this stuff? Or do you just pick up the camera and go? Because it doesn't seem like there's anything there other than you just being real and connecting with your audience. And that's way harder. If you've never created content, go try it and you'll see how fake you want to be, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard to get on there and just be who you really, really are. There's something about a camera, there's something about a microphone, whatever it is, all of a sudden you try to turn on and be the person that you think other people want you to be. And that does, I love this whole process because it's self-development.
Yes.
Like it really makes you look at who you are. And I'll go back and listen to this and I'll think about this conversation and every other one that I've had. And I'll have that conversation with myself. Like, was this real?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the more you do it, it makes you think about that. Right. And probably, it's probably fair to say, most people aren't authentic in the beginning. That's something that is, you kind of have to grow into and learn and push for. But you guys do such a great job of that. I mean, I'm watching the conversations with you and Maya and you and the animals and the barn cats. And it's so cool. And it just seems so just real and organic and authentic. It's really good content. And then when you go look at the comments, that's what just warmed me up. I'm like, man, these people are connected. Like they feel like they know you and they're pulling things away from you that's really enriching their lives. So yes, you're teaching them skills, which I think are amazing to have, especially this day and age. But you're really enriching people's lives by being who you are, who you're meant to be, and being open and being transparent and even sharing some of this stuff. Like it's easy to get to a certain level and be ashamed or embarrassed about being broke and not talking about it, right? Like I struggled with that for a long time because my childhood was really rough and I got into drugs and I did all the stuff. And I'm like, man, this is really embarrassing. And I'm in a small town and I've become really connected and people know me one way. Mm-hmm. They know me as the fitness guy who's into the motivational stuff and he, whatever. I'm like, no, man, you don't understand. Like my life and internally has been a wreck for so many years. But I believe that's what allows me to make connections at a higher level with people. Is that vulnerability piece. Took me a long time to figure that out. But when I started talking about my story and like, hey, all this looks really cool, but let me show you how nasty this is. Yeah. People go, oh man, I like that dude. I don't know why, but I relate to him, something about him. So I can really appreciate you guys doing that and being that way. And I think that's a big key to your success for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. So I want you to speak to the person and then we'll wrap this up who has a dream. Mm-hmm. They want to do something. Maybe it's homesteading. Maybe it's something totally unrelated, but they just don't know where to start. Like, what advice would you give them?
Well, I'm going to tie that back into something you said. You talked about this being a self-development thing.
Yep.
And I actually believe that the reason we turn on the pretender when we put a camera on us, yes, it's for the audience.
Yeah.
But you got to keep in mind when most people start this thing, nobody's watching it. You want to know who's watching
I know.
it? You are. You're going to
right.
sit down at the computer and you're going to go, I hate my voice.
Yeah.
I hate this. I sound stupid. I sound this. I sound that. And you're going to pick yourself apart.
Yeah.
And I personally think that if you are going to accomplish absolutely anything, you have to take the shame off. Mm. And like what you're talking about, you had this past and you didn't want to share it. And it's like, why? Because of shame. Mm-hmm. But you want to know what? If you carry that shame and you allow it to cloak your past, it'll cloak your future too. Because right now, I get more criticism now for being successful than I ever got for being broken. I'm not watching you anymore. You guys have built this farm too fast and it's not relatable for me anymore. And so I'm like, I built the farm fast so I could go change Batesburg. I needed to get this done so I could harvest food out of my yard because I need to focus on the next thing, which is for everybody else. Would you condemn that, really?
Right.
But if I had shame, I would hide. I would become smaller. And how can we ever hope to expand and grow if we are going to wear something that's going to force us to become smaller?
That's good.
And so with the personal development thing, honest to God truth, set yourself aside. I still don't like the way I sound in videos sometimes.
Yeah.
I say, like so much. I can recognize that phrase on the sound bar of editing. I don't even need to hear it. I can see it. I have cut that out of so many videos. I have cut that out literally thousands of times. I would like to believe that at some point I could stop saying it. Yeah. I'll probably listen to this podcast. There it is. There's like. And it's there. It's in my language. I I could be critical of that. I could let that keep me from
and some people
sharing.
do.
And so many people do.
Yeah.
Because they think everybody is going to hate me as much as I hate myself.
Yeah.
And they're not. Like, they're not going to hate you. It is your shame in who you are and where you came from and what you're walking in. It is your lack of comfort with yourself and lack of acceptance with yourself.
Yep.
And honestly, what that really boils down to, it is your fixation with yourself that is causing you to stay small. You just get over yourself.
Ego. Yeah.
Just get over. You don't matter that much.
Yeah.
And this is the thing for me that people are like, man, you'll do videos with like out makeup on, with your hair looking crazy. You go out there and feed the chickens in your pajamas and turn the camera on. I will tell you the truth. When a line full of people show up, I cry every time. It's a little overwhelming for me. I'm a pretty introverted person. I am alone with my camera. I can pretend when there are 6 digits on the views that doesn't actually represent the population of a fairly large size city.
Right.
I just kind of pretend like that's not the case. I probably do stay a little deluded, but honestly, I just don't care that much. I'm not that big of a deal. My makeup is not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Somebody feeling encouraged and being able to turn on a video and feel 15 minutes of peace in an otherwise hectic world, to feel some bit of human connection and feel like they're cared for when I look straight in the camera and I say, can I encourage you today? I bless you today. Like, for them to feel that is so much more important than my makeup, my hair. It's so much more important than it really is. And I think that if we would look at the potential of growth and the potential of impact and significance, that we all have a piece on our life. And it might be different. People, your calling is different than my calling. It's just as valid. And like you said earlier, the garden's not for you.
You're probably not going to find me with a farm. I'm just going to tell you right now. I'll come to yours and we'll hang out there.
I'm in the gym for the first time in my life.
You're at my farm. That's what I'm talking about. Yep.
And I'm liking it. It's good. Good. Totally valid. I didn't think I would have ever done that. But
we're a month in?
I'm
right at a month. Yeah.
I really like it. I've gotten over the part of not wanting to go. Like, I actually look forward to going. So, I think that's a good milestone.
Good. I might like farms before this is over with.
One of these days, we might convert. But we don't all have to do the same thing. In fact, we need to do different things because it's a diverse world that has lots of needs. There need to be people that rise up in lots of different places to meet those needs. But we have to get over ourselves. And I would say, and this is coming from my faith, I would say that if you are actually going to live a significant and an impactful life where you do something that's going to help people, that's kind of the cost of following Jesus. It doesn't get to be all about you anymore. And if you want to be impactful in the culture, the people that, we've discussed people that we really look up to. I love Ed Myllett's podcast and these super inspirational people.
I'm sure Ed listens to this, so shout out Ed.
Yeah, hey Ed. he's gonna call us.
That'd be amazing. Wouldn't that be something though? Somehow, just through the whatever it happened, that'd be awesome.
That has been a life-changing podcast for me. And when I hear him talk to people, when I hear these people that have inspired me talk to people, what I hear in that person is someone they're not egotistical.
Right.
They're not looking for everything they do to glorify them.
Yeah.
And that would be my number one thing. Like, hey, just get over yourself and just do it. Just start. Do the next thing that's in front of you. Stop acting like you got the weight of the world. Come to the place of surrender, because the breakthrough is always on the other side of surrender. It always is.
Yeah.
Even in the little things, little personal development things, going to the gym, hitting the point where you want to quit, surrender.
We talked about this, right? You're at 40%.
And letting that go. Stop criticizing yourself. So the world does not hate you as much as you hate yourself. They're not criticizing you as much as you're criticizing
if we could just get this, though, and I don't want people to miss this, because it seems like, okay, that makes sense. But so many people are going to the graveyard with their gifts and talents inside of here because they're afraid to be judged by someone else.
Yeah.
When the reality is they think that, well, if I could just find success without being judged by someone else and I would arrive, that's when the judgment really starts.
Yeah.
So you're going to catch it here or you're going to catch it here. It doesn't go away. I used to feel the same way, and I still struggle with this because I'm very much coming from the childhood that I came from, you would never think, well, knowing what you know, it would probably make sense that I would be a people pleaser. I was rebellious. You couldn't tell me anything, like whatever. But man, I care way too much about what people think about me.
Yeah.
And I really get hung up, and I will let someone be completely unfair to me for an extended amount of time before I finally decide to stand up for myself. Now, you cut me off in traffic, we'll scrap. Like I piss me off and we'll go at it. But if I love someone and care about someone and have a relationship with someone, I will let them abuse me to the point where it's like, I won't sleep at night and I'm at a breaking point and I'm going, why do I do this? I'm afraid what they might say. If I confront this, I'm afraid of what might happen. There might be tension. There might be judgment. When I started this podcast, I mean, I go back and listen to this. I told Virgil, who edits this, shout out to Virgil, does an amazing job, on the last podcast that I said same thing too many times. I'm like, man, that was a really, really good podcast, but I said way too many times. He goes, dude, I didn't hear it. Nobody cares about that stuff. But it's those things that will cause us to smother out what could be the most beautiful thing that God, I believe, puts inside of us to develop, but we let it go because what if someone says, they're going to say it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
People are going to judge you anyway. They're going to talk trash about you. They're going to leave you things on social media. They're going to talk behind your back. You might as well go for it.
Oh, sure.
Right?
And I mean, I'm here to tell you, I've built one of the most supportive audiences I've ever seen from someone with a platform my size. Like, you talk about all those comments. I mean, I maybe delete 5 comments a week. Maybe. Yeah. And I mean, that ratio to the thousands that come in. Yeah. I mean, I'll shout somebody out and they'll be like, man, all the people that came were so nice and supportive. But inevitably, you're going to run into people who criticize you. Like, I was online the other day and I don't know, like, stuff gets shared all over the place and you go and it's not your audience. So it's a random person and saying that. Someone said, because I was talking about cultural transformation, I was talking about wanting to do something great in Batesburg. Yeah. And I just came across this comment that I happened to see. I don't see a lot of them, but it said, Jessica Sowards thinks she's God's gift to the earth.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I felt? My first initial response was, aren't we supposed to be? Yeah. You know, like, aren't we supposed to be?
What if you thought that about your own self?
What would you be doing if you believed that you could be a gift to the earth? Yeah. You know, that you could choose to live your life in a way that would benefit other people. Good. And I realized it was a real moment for me because it took a couple of years when you got all that brokenness and you put it on a platform and the insults, the comments. And when they call you fat and ugly and whatever, they say all these different things. I don't care about that. Whatever, you know, like that's cheap. Right. When they say something that just borders on true. Yeah. And you're like, oh, you know, like I made myself vulnerable and somebody called out something that I actually don't like about me. That's way harder. And it's been growing. It's all self-development. Anything can be if you let it be. Yeah. I mean, it can shut you down or it can prune you and allow you to grow in a way that you produce more. Yeah. And so
my buddy says entrepreneurship is self-development course disguised as a business.
Yes.
Yes. Everybody needs to try to do something productive in business or for themselves or whatever, and just find out that you get your behind kicked over and over and over, and you either rise up and kind of continue to push forward or you don't. And it's not for everybody, and it is hard. And I hope people listen to this really get that. Like, ready, fire, aim. It doesn't have to be perfect. Take the risk, take the chance. Who cares what people say? Even if it doesn't make sense, because look, what a beautiful example of what's possible. I'm thrilled that you guys are in Batesburg. The chatter all around Batesburg is that y'all are making a difference. And everybody I've talked to is like, man, this couple is like so intriguing. They're coming here. It's like kind of this mysterious thing. Yeah. You start getting stuff in Batesburg and what are they going to do next? So I'm in y'all's corner.
Thank you.
And I'm pumped to be alongside you guys in your own fitness journey and in your family's fitness journey. And I think we're going to collab on a lot of stuff.
Yes, I think that's true.
We're new besties. So, yeah. Thanks so much for doing this. Guys, thank you for checking out this episode. This was episode number 11 or number 12. We look forward to the next one. Jessica, thank you so much. Where can people find you guys?
Rootsandrefuge.com kind of will take you wherever we are. If you Google Roots and Refuge, we're on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all the places. But rootsandrefuge.com is kind of a diving board into all those things.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yep.
Thanks again. You got it.